news. Kenya grieves Odinga, multitude flock to pay tribute. Tanzania's power ambitions advance, World Bank vows support. Good evening, I am Faida Ngaga. You can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBC Online. Also, get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook, and X pages at TBC Online. The body of the former Kenyan Prime Minister, the late Raila Odinga, arrived at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport earlier today, with thousands of Kenyans lining the streets from the airport to the city center. Several roads in Nairobi were temporarily closed due to the overwhelming turnout. Raila Odinga was a transformative political figure who shaped Kenyan politics for decades and earned various nicknames that reflected his unique leadership style. To understand more of who Raila Odinga was, Caroline Maleo has prepared the following report.
Raila Amolo Odinga was born on January 7th in 1945 at the Anglican Mission Hospital in Maseno, Kisumu County. The son of Kenyan first Vice President Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Raila was born into politics and on purpose. He studied in Bondo, Kisumu, and later in East Germany, where his curiosity for industry met his conviction for freedom. But it was not the classroom that defined him. It was the struggle for democracy that did. In 1982, he was jailed for 6 years, and the imprisonment turned him from an engineer into a reformer, and from a reformer into a national force. He became the face of Kenya's fight for multi-party democracy, standing alongside figures like Wangari Maathai and James Orengo. Through courage and persistence, he helped open the political space that many now take for granted. He contested for presidency position 5 times in 1997, 2007, 2013, 2017, and 2022, and though victory eluded him, his influence never did. From the historic coalition with Mwai Kibaki in 2002 to the power-sharing government of 2008, and the famous handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta in 2018, Raila Odinga proved that leadership is not only about power, but about peace. As a Prime Minister, he oversaw the birth of Kenya's 2010 Constitution, perhaps his greatest legacy. And even in his final years, he continued to build bridges, choosing dialogue over division. To millions, he was a father, the people's president who never ruled, but who led from the heart, a symbol of resilience, reform, and the enduring spirit of Kenya, East Africa, and Africa at large. Raila Amolo Odinga might be gone, but not forgotten. His voice may be silent, but his legacy speaks louder than ever. I am Caroline Maleo, TBC News.
Now, to understand more what is going on in Kenya, we are joined live by Rida Chebeti, who is a journalist in Kenya. Rida, how is the nation reacting to the passing of Raila Odinga, a man who has been at the center of Kenya's political life for decades?
All right, thank you so much. Here in Kenya, Kenyans are mourning the leader whom many have known for decades as an opposition figure, a father figure in Kenyan politics. The Kenyans, most of them, especially those in Raila Odinga's strongholds in Kisumu, Siaya, Homa Bay, we have in Nairobi, Kenyans from the streets, others with twigs, leaves, mourning, they assess the body, insisting they want to see their leader. So the emotions in Kenya here is grief. Kenyans have expressed their mixed reactions over the death of Raila Amolo Odinga, clearly indicating that he was a man of the people. He was the father of Kenyans, clearly known as Baba.
And what immediate steps has the government taken following his death, and how are security and public gatherings being managed during this period of mourning?
Some of the immediate steps that the government of Kenya took after the death of Raila Amolo Odinga on Wednesday, first was the formation of a committee to handle the burial preparations led by Deputy President not Rigathi Gachagua, but Honorable Kithure Kindiki, who is spearheading the whole process. And also the government declared 7 days of mourning and declared Friday, that is October 17th, a public holiday on Friday in honor of Raila Amolo Odinga. Also, the security in the country has been tightened, although on Thursday, when the body of Raila Amolo Odinga arrived in the country, we experienced some hitch here and there, starting with Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, where security was at times breached, with the Kenyans trying to reach their leader, Raila Amolo Odinga. Also, the body viewing, which was supposed to happen in Parliament, had to be rescheduled and transferred to Kasarani Stadium. But the government has tried to tighten the security in all the public places to ensure that the operation runs smoothly.
Also, Raila was often described as both a reformist and a symbol of opposition politics in Kenya. How do Kenyans remember his political legacy today?
Kenyans, first of all, remember Raila Amolo Odinga as a father of democracy, because through his leadership, Kenya is where it is because of him. We understand that Raila Odinga has vied for 5 elections. We can say 6 because in 2013 we had 2 elections. And in all the general elections, Raila Odinga has never won any of the elections. But despite that, he has been appealing to the courts, and through that, we have been able to strengthen our electoral process and also test the democracy of Kenya, and also enabling the judiciary to interpret the 2010 constitution. So Kenyans remember Raila Amolo Odinga as the father of democracy, because it's through his appeals that Kenya, it is where it is. It is because through his appeals that the 2010 constitution was able to be interpreted well by the judicial, that is the judiciary. Also, Raila Amolo Odinga will be remembered as the visionary reformer and Pan-Africanist, and that is one of the things that Raila Odinga is remembered well across Africa and even in the world. He is a Pan-Africanist. He has always been fighting for Africa. To him, Africa, it is Africa first. He has always put the interest of Africa first. And also, as I talk about putting the interest first, he has always had the interest of Kenya at heart, because this is a leader who, despite losing all the elections, is always find a way to ensure that the country is peaceful, because he commands a huge number in the country. You find that in most elections, he usually garners almost half of the votes. But despite losing the elections, he has always find a way to accommodate all Kenyans, to ensure that also they feel like their voices are heard through handshakes, through working with governments to ensure that all the interests of all Kenyans are met. So Kenyans will remember him as a father figure who built the democracy of the country, who has enabled the democracy of the country to be where it is, who has also shaped the electoral process of the country, and a Pan-Africanist.
Lastly, what are the latest updates regarding funeral arrangements?
Okay, so on the funeral arrangements, remember that on Thursday, the body viewing happened at Kasarani, which was late because of the disruptions that happened. So on Friday, first of all, at 9 a.m., the state funeral will be held at Nyayo Stadium. Then after that, the funeral will be for 2 hours. Then after that, the public will be allowed again to view the body of Raila Amolo Odinga after the state funeral. And after that, his body will be transported to Nyanza, that is to Kisumu, where the residents of the Nyanza region will be able to view his body at the stadium. Then after that, his body will head to Siaya County, where he will be led to rest. That is on Sunday. That is in Bondo, Siaya County.
Thank you very much, Rita Chebeti. And indeed, we will continue to get updates. In other news, the World Bank has pledged to support Tanzania to become a regional electricity production hub, producing a power that will be used by other African countries to boost production, as well as to add the value of the Tanzania's standard gauge railway, SGR, to benefit more the citizens and investors. The commitment was announced by the World Bank Vice President in charge of the East and Southern Africa region, Dr. Ndiame Diop, where he met and held talks with the Tanzanian delegation at the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank annual meeting held in Washington, D.C. in the United States.
Really supports you on some multimodal transport that would just unlock activities, agribusiness, tourism, mining, etc., along the corridors. So these are very transformative projects that can have lots of ramification. We are supporting, for example, Angola to leverage the Lobito corridor to transform a transport corridor into an economic corridor, a corridor that creates jobs.
On the other hand, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Dr. Natu Mwamba, has thanked the bank for supporting Tanzania to implement various strategic projects aiming to stimulate the country's economic growth.
The thing that we discussed is their preference for us to collaborate on major projects. One of the projects we have talked about and worked on is one that could integrate various transport systems, possibly starting from the port of Dar es Salaam all the way to our borders. We also discussed different ways of involving the private sector, recognizing that in our Vision 2050, we greatly rely on private sector. In addition, we also talked about the issue of energy.
The World Bank's financial support for the implementation of economic and social projects in Tanzania has reached $10.9 billion, whereby currently 38 development projects are being implemented in various sectors. The Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Kosato Chumi, has led the Tanzanian delegation to participate in the 19th Central Ministerial Conference of the Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, held in Kampala, representing the Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Ambassador Mahmoud Thabit Kombo. The conference was preceded by an expert-level conference. This conference discusses how to resolve the political, economic, and social challenges facing NAM member countries in the current times. Chumi, during his speech, has called on NAM member countries to continue to stand together in various international discussions and defend the interests of developing countries. He says Tanzania is ready and will cooperate with other countries to defend and protect NAM's interests. After the discussions, the conference will adopt a resolution, including the Kampala Final Declaration and the Declaration on Palestine. The Director of International Trade and Economic Diplomacy, Ambassador John Ulanga, urges governments of the Central Corridor member countries to focus on using the corridor for the regional development by emphasizing on improving intra-regional trade, enhancing economic activities along the route, and fostering sustainable development rather than solely relying on transit traffic. Here's a story by Ismail Bugda, read to you by Kanki Magumore.
Central Corridor member countries and stakeholders are meeting to explore ways to transform the Central Corridor from transit route to an economic corridor to promote regional development. Director of International Trade and Economic Diplomacy, Ambassador John Ulanga, says the transformation will be of great economic benefits to African countries.
We feel really to commend and appreciate the efforts done by CCTTFA to transform this corridor, the Central Corridor, from being just a transport facilitation corridor into an economic development, into a value creation corridor, which means instead of just the corridor being used to transport goods in and outside and out of the region, the corridor now will be used to create value within the region, which means it will enhance manufacturing or value addition into the region, which will enhance the value of our exports.
Furthermore, he emphasizes on the issue of deepening cooperation between member states.
Dependencies, they do not have an option except maintaining peace within the region, because then maintaining peace is not only an issue of political stability, but it's also an issue of economic survival.
The Executive Secretary of the Central Corridor Transport Facilitation Agency, Okanju Okonge Flore, says the initiatives will transform the corridor to an industrial corridor.
During the implementation, we came to realize that we are here just to helping others to move their cargoes from our countries to the other continents through our port. They are using our road, our rail, and the others network of transport. Now, the countries say that we should stop to be there as a merely transport corridor and to move to the economic value corridor, where now the countries want to focus on economic transformation of this corridor. And this is what we are doing now as a Central Corridor Secretariat.
The good news is that stakeholders have demonstrated the commitment to the transformation.
Because the GDC focuses on regional value chains that produce things for which there's a real demand in the region, but also in the world. High-value crops, horticulture, electric vehicles, all that is in real demand.
We do collaborate with the government representatives in the room, the regional economic blocs across the continent, and the private sector actors to remove barriers to trade and time for doing business.
Member states have selected the first 4 priority regional value chains that will realize this vision, which include electric mobility, agri-industry, horticulture, iron and steel, and pharmaceuticals. The Central Corridor countries include Tanzania, Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Malawi, Rwanda, and Burundi.
Thank you, Kanki Magumole, for that story. In a strategic move to accelerate progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, the United Nations SABA partnership has launched a country-level implementation plan aimed at aligning national development priorities with regional SDG targets across Africa. Here are more details.
This is one of the installed machines in the 5 laboratories in Tanzania Bureau of Standards head office in Dar es Salaam, aimed at testing energy efficiency of home electric appliances imported in the country, such as air conditions, electric cars, motors, television sets, and refrigerators before they reach.
This new framework offers countries a practical roadmap to tailor and implement national communication and media strategies that drive awareness, engagement, and impact around their most pressing development needs. Speaking during the launch, which kicked off virtually, the Regional Director for Africa at the United Nations Development Coordination Office, Jacobo El Hilo, says under the plan, each participatory country will focus on 2 to 3 SDG-related themes per year, ranging from youth, employment, and gender equality to climate resilience, selected based on national relevance and broad stakeholder consultation.
So hopefully through the partnership with SABA, we will not just be talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, because that is not the idea. The hope is that through this partnership, we actually amplify stories and information about good practices that are happening, things that on a day-to-day basis take place in communities, communities here, and I know that Sabah probably has than 250 million people.
To enhance visibility and impact, the president of Sabah, Stanley Similo, says each theme will feature at least one flagship communication activity, such as media campaign, community event, or broadcast clip.
That we also have quite a couple of young ministers that are holding serious portfolios within the government. And I think that's also part of that process of being intentional, particularly from our current president. So if I just concentrate again on SDG 5, which is gender equality, I think Namibia as a country is moving within the right direction. And where we also have seen quite good traction is on education. This is something that the incoming president has said that, look, education under her watch will have to be an activity that should become relatively easy for Namibians to get into, to the extent that she has pronounced that all costs associated with getting children into school will be borne by the government, which is also, in a way, a first for this country as well. So there we are also seeing that there are things that are moving.
Countries are encouraged to integrate innovative approaches, including AI-assisted content and participatory storytelling, aligning with the United Nations and the Global Digital Compact. Caroline Maleo, TBC News.
Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Energy, Dr. James Mataragio, says the launching of minimum energy performance standards and inauguration of National Energy Efficiency Testing Laboratory will help the country to reduce pressure in national grid and end the import of fake electrical products and promote energy efficiency in home and industries, hence lower carbon emissions. Here's a report by Mario Cheto, read to you by Kanki Magumole.
This is one of the installed machines in the 5 laboratories in Tanzania Bureau of Standards head office in Dar es Salaam, aimed at testing energy efficiency of home electric appliances imported in the country, such as air conditions, electric cars, motors, television sets, and refrigerators before they reach customers. The Deputy Permanent Secretary, Minister of Energy, who is also the guest of honor in the inauguration, Dr. James Mataragio, believes that the machines installed will decrease electricity bills and ensure the importation of high-quality electric products that ensure energy efficiency.
These appliances account for over 45% of national electricity consumption. By setting clear efficiency requirements, the country expects to save more than 370 gigawatts of electricity annually by 2030, enough to power over 500,000 homes each year and cut over 250,000 tons of carbon dioxide emission annually.
With this equipment in place, TBS is now well positioned to certify solid fuel cookstove, ensuring the communities have access to clear, low-emission technologies that saves lives and protect our environment. We all know our Madam President, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, is a real champion in clean cooking, and with this testing laboratory, we'll be able to demonstrate and confirm those who are declared they're having a clean cooking stoves.
The European Union and United Nations Development Programme representatives say they are committed to support Tanzania in its energy efficiency strategy to ensure the country is turning policy into actions and reach its sustainable development goals.
UNDP and UNCDF remain committed to walking this journey with all our friends in Tanzania, supporting national institutions, strengthening local capacities, and helping to attract new finance and technology to power the next phase of Tanzanian development. And with this progress, we are very grateful for all our friends in Tanzania, because that will give us even more leverage to advocate for Tanzania, not only in here, but in Africa and at the global level.
Special for the population, basically. If they have to pay a little bit more for the initial equipment to be 4 stars, 3 stars, following the labeling, they will pay less costs of electricity. Their budget for electricity will be decreasing. So the EU is very proud to be part of this very important success we are celebrating today.
According to statistical information, any home appliance labeled with 1 star, its electrical energy consumption is reduced by 27%, while the home appliance labeled with 5 stars, its consumption is reduced by 64%, giving a chance for customers to save money and keep Tanzania's environment clean.
Policymakers and researchers say it is high time Africa embraced climate-smart agriculture for sustainable and resilient farming that will increase production, enhance climate change resilience, and reduce green gas emissions. Speaking to TBC News, the Director for Environment for Development, EFD for Tanzania, Dr. Martin Chegere, and other global experts insist without the measure being taken, Africa will face food insecurity due to unpredictable climate change. Nasser Kingo has more.
It is EFD Policy Day 2025, emphasizing the importance of building resilient and sustainable agriculture for future in Africa. The question is, how and why?
Kind of agriculture which will take into account the climate challenges which we have. So here we are talking of different practices which are related to, for example, conserving water, which is related to having improved seeds which can counter the effects of climate change which we have, and so many others.
We have declining food production. This is mainly because of climate change. So we have to find ways and solutions to be able to address this. And this can only be done by looking at science, and that science links up with policy.
How viable is climate-smart agriculture in Africa?
We have also focused on indigenous crops, which are kind of crops which we have been traditionally growing, but for some time and for some reasons, these have no longer been produced in that massive amount, not being consumed. So we are bringing in, because these traditional kind of crops were also surviving in our own climate as compared to other foreign crops.
And what are the challenges these experts think hinder full implementation of climate-smart agriculture?
One area is that to make people aware, to make them knowledgeable of these practices. But on the other side, we have the financing part, because to adopt the new technologies, to bring in the new knowledge, we also require some kind of financing.
We are having a lot of challenges in terms of negotiations in the Agriculture and Food Security thematic group. A lot of times we have been discussing topics, we've been discussing about the science, but it is now time for us to go into action.
One size doesn't really fit all. You really need to have tailored solutions to the local conditions, which are dependent upon, of course, the rainfall, the slopes, the soils, and the availability of labor within the household.
As COP13 nears, what message do these experts have?
We want to build a resilient, sustainable agriculture in Africa, and that is our zeal, and we want to reach there.
COP30, the theme is how do we mobilize what we call the means of implementation, the finance, the capacity building, technology development, dissemination, which is going to scale up the productivity that we need in Africa.
The success of this meeting will be measured by the level of food production Africa reaches despite unpredictable climate change. Reporting from Dar es Salaam, Nasser Kingu, TBC News.
Ambassador of Italy to Tanzania, Giuseppe Sean Coppola, says his country remains committed to deepen ties with Tanzania through culture depicted through language and youth engagement. He made the remarks while his country marks Italian Language Week, which this year's celebrations go beyond language. Esther Deus reports.
It is the second day of the Italian Language Week, which also features a special competition titled Italy Through My Eyes. The contest brought together young participants aged 6 to 19 from different nationalities, whereby 4 winners were honored and awarded during the event. The Italian ambassador shares how both countries have a long-standing history in promoting each other's culture through language.
This week in October every year, since 25 years, we promote all embassies in the world, the Italian language in the world. And of course, also Tanzania has some very interesting ties with Italy in terms of Italian language. We actually organized this event also with Dante Alighieri Committee. Dante Alighieri Committee is the entity based actually in Tanzania, working a lot on promoting Italian language and teaching Italian language. Focused on exploring similarities and common points between Italian and Swahili, because there are lots of similarities also in the way the two languages sound. So it was a very, very interesting input and inspiration on, on connections between the two languages.
The response is quite good, especially at the moment, because we are very new. At the moment, from families, we have mixed families, where one parent is Italian, and from people who are interested for different reasons to Italian culture, people that for business have relationship with Italy, or people who want to learn the Italian language.
Tanzanian and Italian artists share how the contest allowed them not only to explore each other's culture, but also to reflect on their own identity and how art can connect nations.
I brought here this performance to connect the Italian language, the Kiswahili, because they have many, many things in common, and they are treasures for us, because nothing is more precious than words, and words can connect people.
Yeah, I'm convinced to learn Italian language because I think it's a romantic language. It's a beautiful language, and I think it's simple to learn.
Furthermore, the Italian ambassador insists that more initiatives, especially in tourism sector, are yet to come that will engage the youth through cultural exchange in strengthening bilateral ties.
Also, looking ahead at the next weeks and months, we're having a very interesting initiative also in November, and that's also a yearly initiative that we support. Is the Week of the Italian Cuisine in the World, and there we will also have some training activities for young Tanzanian boys and girls working in the tourist sector, because of course tourism is a very important element of our bilateral relations.
As the celebration continues, one message stands clear: language and art are powerful tools that connect hearts across continent. Esther Dels, TBC News.
And on that note, we're ending our news bulletin for tonight. Don't miss our next bulletin in Kiswahili at 11 p.m. On behalf of the whole team, I am Faiva Ngaga. Good night.